Okay then. So this is the end of the month, and every week in September we have been speaking about how we can live a life, since we started with Labor Day, that was without labor, that's not so hard. How can we live a life where it flows so that we can be at peace? And I have said this over and over again, but I know that we need to hear it. I do need to hear it, so I'm assuming that you need to hear it again, that this happens when we live from certain spiritual principles. When we apply certain spiritual practices, and when we release into the divine, we just release all of the need to control everything in our lives into divinity. And life can really work so much better when we do it that way. And even in those moments where it doesn't look like everything is flowing just the way we want it to flow, it's still working. It's still, I mean, I was so inspired by John Henry this morning, and a lot of you don't know him, but he's an amazing human being. A lot of you do know him because he's a member here. And he's just so inspiring. One day I'm going to have you get up and talk, okay? Yeah, we need to hear how when things don't look like they're going the way we want them to go, how changing our thoughts, changing the way we respond, changes everything in our lives. So over the weeks we have defined what a life looks like that works. And these are some of the concepts that we came up with. When we really deeply feel connected to Source, which is the one power, to God, when we have dynamic, vibrant, radiant health, when we are in the flow financially, and when we're in loving, solid relationships, when we are at peace and happy, and when we are joyously sharing our gifts and our talents. These are all the different areas that when we're in that flow, we feel really good, and we're not always there, but it's what we desire. We're hitting all of the areas that go into a life that works. And with that, we love the work we do. How about that? What a concept. We are giving, we are serving others. Big, big with the serving and the giving. You want to feel really good and grateful, give. The more you give, the more you receive. It really does work that way. And when we are living in the now moment, no other place to live, folks, only in the now moment, right here, right now. It's always a now moment. That's why I love those clocks that have now, 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 now. I mean, it's wonderful. It's so cool. You're always living in the now. Good reminder. And we see that life works not only for ourselves, but for others, for all humanity. Because when we show up as the beneficial presence that we really are, by the way, when we show up as that, we are expressing our good and we are sharing it with everyone around us. It influences more people than we would ever know. We can't know. And we do it for ourselves, but it benefits us all because we're all one. This is a unified field of infinite potential that we all reside in. And so again, we can have a life that works without all that work and effort and stress. When we live from certain spiritual principles, when we apply certain spiritual practices, and when we leave the rest up to Spirit, up to God. And today we're going to bring the month to a close. Wow, we had 5 Sundays this month. We had Bhante Wamala, our Sri Lankan Buddhist monk, that was so incredible, also in the month. But today we're going to bring the month to a close by living from those certain spiritual principles and engaging in a certain spiritual practice. I have 2 things for us today. Both of which are leading up to leaving the rest to God, to the divine. When we can't do it, guess what? That universal life support that is within each and every one of us can. There is nothing in us that cannot. There is nothing in our lives that is impossible. This is truth, but you must believe it in order for it to be truth in your life. So the spiritual principle we're going to discuss this morning is the universe is a whole lot smarter than you are, than we are, than I am. And the spiritual practice is, we'll get to that later. So the spiritual principle first, okay? The universe is a whole lot smarter than you are. Nice. Intellectually, I get this. And I hope we all do, but I think that we move further into our depth of understanding of what that really means. Ernest Holmes writes this in Science of Mind. We comprehend the meaning of infinite intelligence only in a small degree. We can't take it all in. It's so beyond our comprehension. But when we tap in, when we do our meditation and connect with Source, even that little bit, when we're in affirmative prayer and we connect just that little bit, we're getting a taste of it. Just a taste is infinite, and it's good, and it's for us because we are created out of the nature of this God stuff, this divinity. And so, just for a moment, we can expand our openness to this concept of an intelligent universe that works for us, through us, as us, and all around us. Even when it looks like great chaos, as it does. If you were, listening to you don't even have to listen to the news. I gave up listening to the news, like everybody said, I gave up listening to the news. Guess what? It still comes through. Right. So, and that's okay. It looks like chaos, but it's not. Because at the center of that, we hold that knowing. We hold that knowing that right action is taking place. And we show up as the light that can dim all that darkness. It does not have to affect us. We do not, hear this, we do not have to live in fear. As the program says, basically, we don't have to live in fear. And so I'm going to finish what Ernest Holmes wrote there. We comprehend the meaning of infinite intelligence only to a small degree, but because we are spiritual beings, we do sense the presence of an intelligence which is beyond human comprehension. An intelligence which is great enough to encompass the past, to understand the present, and to be the father/mother of the future. It is the cause of everything that has been and is that out of which everything must unfold that is to be. Where are we creating from? We cannot create from any other moment but right here and right now. This is the only time that we can hold our future right in our present moment, by being that which we desire to manifest in our lives, by being that beneficial presence, by being the love, the peace, the wholeness that we would like to manifest in our lives. And I love this from Science of Mind. In the beginning of any creative series, there is absolute intelligence alone, pure spirit, all-inclusive, everywhere, infinite. This is always everywhere, and it's beyond intelligence, beyond what we comprehend. We try to give it names. We try to understand the great I am. That's impossible. But what is possible is that we can move into a place where we allow that infinite intelligence to move through us, to guide our every action. But first we need to have a relationship with the infinite. We need to develop a relationship and have the faith that it actually exists. This is how we really shift our life, and events take place, as I've said before, but we shift the way we respond to them, which changes the entire outcome. There was a story of a convention of scientists where, after many, many papers and much discussion, they concluded that now we know all the secrets of life. Thus, God is not necessary. We know it all, right? Scientists, brilliant. One of the scientists commissioned was to tell this to God. The scientist gets an audience with God and tells her that she's no longer needed. She's no longer needed, since humans can now create life, etc. God smiles, says, show me. The scientist bends over to pick up a handful of earth when God interrupts, saying, oh no, get your own earth. Everything, this is a joke, by the way, everything consists of this divine energy. There is no place that it does not exist. We are always using it. Even if you're an atheist, you're using it. I don't mind atheists, they don't bother me, because I know the truth of my being and I know how happy I am. I know that I'm happy as I return when I leave this physical form. When we all leave our physical forms, my belief is we return to this light. And we are part of this divine energy. We cannot be separate from it. That is the belief system that goes along with this spirituality. So, spiritually, this is a foundational belief in our teachings. The words of Holmes sum it up beautifully, and this is on page 105 if you care to look. As we look at the many millions of forms, all different shapes and colors, are we not compelled to accept the fact that intelligence is the ultimate creative agency of the universe? Nothing can create this. Everything. I mean, just as our practitioner was talking about the intelligence of the body. Man cannot repeat that, tries to clone it. But it's not the same. It can't be the same. That same intelligence moving through the scientists who are cloning is the intelligence of divinity. It must be that way. To even know that we can have a thought, where do those thoughts come from? You know, we know psychologically and physiologically, we know the studies being done, but ultimately, it comes from the infinite intelligence. It comes from that divine intelligence within each and every one of us. So let's embody that idea and take it deeper with this morning with this statement. Divine intelligence is the ultimate creative agency of the universe, and it knows more than I do. And there's a second piece to this spiritual principle. Critically important to our equating of creating a life that works without all the hard work, and it's this: even though the infinite intelligence knows more than I do, it lives and moves and has its being as me and works through me. Open up to that concept. If the way you've been living life doesn't work for you, maybe you can shift and try something new. Oh, because our egos go, whoa, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense. I'm not doing that. Why? It might be better. Just open and receptive to the infinite good that truly, truly exists in our lives. And so I'd like you to say this after me. Infinite intelligence lives in me.
Infinite intelligence lives in me.
Works through me.
Works through me.
And creates as me.
And creates as me.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth. So it is.
And so it is, yes. If that is a spiritual principle, then what is the spiritual practice, right? Gotta have a practice, gotta have that action. So of course, it's letting go of control. Letting go of control of what, you might ask? And letting go of many things. Can anyone think of something you might want to let go of? One thing.
Fear.
Fear. Letting go of fear.
Worry.
Anger.
What was that?
Worry.
Anger.
Anger. Letting go of anger.
Jealousy.
Yeah, letting go of jealousy, letting go of all those beliefs and fears and emotions that really don't serve us. And how about letting go of the how? We know how to do things. I mean, we know what, we know what we want to experience in our lives, do we not?
Yes.
I mean, most people know what they want. And then we hold that intention and we let this universal intelligence take care of the how. Because it does it so much better than I can do, and I know than you can do. Absolutely. Letting go of the how it happens. Focusing and holding the vision. Following the guidance as it comes. Because you must do the action part. So you will be divinely guided. Make sure you show up for it. Make sure you show up for it. So, what is the one thing, though, that we do have control over?
How we react to our thoughts.
How we react to our thoughts, which is part of the larger, our consciousness. Our consciousness, which encompasses everything about us, really and truly. The way we show up in life, we can really move into a place where the flow of divinity takes place as we open to that infinite good that is truly ours. And there's a combination of 8 things that happens. Our thoughts and our spoken words, which impact our feelings, which then shape our attitudes, beliefs, and values, which in turn informs our action and reaction. I mean, that's all part of consciousness. Our values, our reactions, our responses, everything about how we process thought. And so how many people remember, this is an oldie, thank God for the internet, the movie The Robe? Anybody?
Yes.
Oh, yes, okay, good. People watch old movies, because it was around in 1953, so. It was starring Richard Burton and Gene Simmons, and tells the story of a Roman military tribune. Okay, this was the movie. They won all these Oscars. And so this is the tribune who commanded the unit that crucified Jesus. It was nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards. And there is an interesting story in regards to the making of the robe to be worn by the character of Jesus. The real robes that Jesus wore were seamless. So to preserve authenticity, a professional hand weaver and her daughter were hired to make this garment on their loom. And it was to be authentic, a complete authentic reproduction for those traditionally worn in Judea at the time of Jesus. The actual weaving took a total of 36 hours, and the weaver and her daughter felt it to be a sacred task. The robe was completed, and they were about to deliver it to the studio with just about 16 hours left to meet that deadline. But a disaster occurred. The small son of the weaver's daughter had been seen with a pair of scissors and a piece of material that was part of that precious fabric. And they had not, this is actually, I believe it's a true story, but I believe everything's a true story, so why not? Just fake everything else. Make up your own reality, right? On with the story. Okay. So they had not seen him pick up the scissors and the robe. What to do now, they thought. 36 hours, we only have 16 hours to short. They prayed about finding a speedy replacement. And although there was obviously not nearly enough time for them to complete the duplicate, they surrendered. They surrendered their preconceived notion of what could or what could not be done. They let go, and they began immediately to weave another similar robe. Incredibly, or not so incredibly, 9 hours later the work was finished, as beautiful as the first. And you might say, well, they had to be practical, so it took them less time on the second go-round. But not so. Believing they were absolutely astonished at the short period of time it took to decide to make, they decided to make a third roll to make sure that it took 9 hours to make. And they worked rapidly, and they could to yet make another row, but this one took 36 hours, just as the first one did. In those moments when there is nothing else for them to do, they let go. And when they let go, the impossible became the possible. It's a really powerful example of what can or cannot be done when we let go of the preconceived idea of this is absolutely the only way that it can be. And this is exactly how long it takes. No. Diane Harmony in 5 Gifts for an Abundant Life writes this: when we let go and let God, we are in the midst of a spiritual practice so powerful that the core beliefs that have held us captive and small can be dismantled. Resistance to our good can melt away. Fear of the unknown can be shattered. A sense of oneness with God and all life can be embodied. And a whole new world of infinite possibilities can open up for us. When we let go of how is really important, of how a thing should be done. And here's a statement for us. As I let go and let God, a whole new world of infinite possibilities opens up for me. Oh, I love that. As I let go and let God, a whole new world of infinite possibilities opens up for me. Isn't that great? Great affirmation.
Oh, yes.
And so we can rely on the spiritual principle that there is an intelligence in the universe infinitely greater than ours, and that we are immersed in and one with it. We are one with it. That's why it's infinite potential. Infinite potential for us, for our thinking, for our wisdom, for what we can do. It's infinite. And it's ready to create this infinite good. God, love, spirit, source is ready to create in and through us. We are vehicles. These are our vehicles, these bodies. We show up in these bodies, and that force of good, that source of good, is the truth of our being. It's who we really are. So, repeat this after me. Infinite intelligence lives in me.
Infinite intelligence lives in me.
Works through me. And creates as me. I love it. I did a wedding yesterday. They repeat after me too. That's great. If I could just train all the people I know in life to repeat this after me. It would be scary. Anyway, then we engage, that's the principle, then we engage in the spiritual practice of letting go, of knowing that we are safe, loved, protected, and provided for. Isn't that the core desire of all humans? To feel loved, protected, safe, and provided for. Wow, I can relax, I can let go. I can really allow the infinite to wrap me in its embrace. Love that. So, let's say this after me. As I let go and let God.
As I let go and let God.
A whole new world of infinite possibilities.
A whole new world of infinite possibilities.
Opens up for me. And that, it sounds a lot like what we've been working on the whole month, taking in, not working, but allowing, hopefully, you've allowed it, to saturate our being, and that's leaving the rest to, in other words, trusting God. When we do this, we create a life that is deeply connected to Source, that connection. We have dynamic, vibrant, radiant health. We're in the flow financially. We have loving, solid relationships. We're at peace and happy. We are joyously sharing our talents and our gifts. And we love the work that we do. We are serving and giving to others. And we are living in the now moment. Without all the hard effort and work that goes through it. And that sounds pretty good to me. I think I'm inspired right now to do a prayer. So,